certainly I've learnt through life that things are easier when you've got money in the bank, right? Now, I'm 50 now, and I've certainly, worked hard to get to a point where I've got money in the bank, and there was a lot of time where there wasn't. There was a lot of time. There was a time when Linda and I literally, we lived out of envelopes, where our cash lived in envelopes, and it was earmarked groceries, petrol, whatever, entertainment. When that envelope was empty for that week, well, okay, there's no more in there.
Yeah.
We've been at that point. I want to just say that, and we've worked incredibly hard to build up those reserves to do that.
Yeah.
And so that, your lessons enable you to get through the lessons better next time, maybe.
You're listening to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard. Here's your host, Tabitha Bright.
Hello and welcome to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard, where I get to speak to property investors from around Australia about their investing journey. My name is Tabitha Bright, and I'm the head of coaching here at Positive Real Estate, where we help people build wealth through property. With over 8,000 clients across Australia and New Zealand, there are some incredible stories to tell, which hopefully make your investing journey that little bit easier and will inspire you along the way. So my guest today is James Evenden, and I'm discussing with him, how do you sleep at night when everything seems to go sideways, when you just get hit by wave after wave of challenges? What safeguards he's put in place, and what happens to your brain under this duress? So enjoy this conversation on mindset with James Evenden. Hey folks, and welcome to today's podcast. So today I am super fortunate to have one of our property consultants, James Evenden, along with me, my latest victim, I call him, to the podcast interview. And, James and I, welcome to the podcast, James. Sorry, I forgot to say welcome.
Thank you, Tab. It's wonderful to be here. Very grateful for it.
You're a good man. And James, how long have you and I worked together? Because you were part of Positive. Yep. Sorry, you go.
Over 10 years now.
Over 10. Wow. Yeah, it's a long time. I actually remember very clearly the first time I met you. I think it must have been at Shay's 40th birthday, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah. A mutual friend of our, obviously, Jason Witten, who's the founder of the company, and Shay, who was one of the owners of the company. It was her 40th birthday, and I met James. And James, you were in retail real estate, so you've got a background in real estate amongst many other things. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, thank you. Yes, at the time when we met, I was working for what I call a shopfront real estate. That was a family-owned business.
Yeah.
I learnt and I guess, cut my teeth in real estate in that, in that role for 3 years. It was very tough. It was Gold Coast, post GFC. I started in Feb of 08.
Whoa, okay.
Rather naive and very wet behind the ears on to what really real estate was about, but had this wonderful vision of what it could be. I think I must have seen some selling Sunset Show or something. I thought that'll be me. Far from it. I'm soon knocking on doors in Labrador and Southport, Gold Coast, in GFC, looking for business. But
wow.
I stuck at it and was in that role for 3 years.
Yep.
And very much driven by providing for my young family at that point. I think we had 3 in nappies.
Wow. Yep.
And when we met, yes, at Shay's, and yourself, and Sam, and we all hit it off, and I'm very I still remember that, and I remember the conversation, and and within 2 weeks we were working together.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, who you rub shoulders with, who's in your vicinity. Well, we're certainly very fortunate to meet you that night. Well, I was fortunate to meet you that night. You obviously knew the guys. So I was particularly keen to have you here today to talk, because all of our team invest in real estate. So everyone's investors, and everyone's got stories to tell around their investing. James is particularly unique. He's done a lot of stuff around mindset. You've done 20 years with Anthony Robbins and the team with, self-development. And I know whenever I get on the phone to you or wherever we have a conversation, one of the things I notice about you is you're always looking for the opportunity. So it doesn't matter how big the challenge is, you'll always turn it around and you'll say, oh yes, this has been a bit tough. This is happening. However, there's this to be said for it. And I know that it's relative based on, X, Y, Z. There's always something to be learned from it. And I think what I would like people to get out of today's session is a little bit about that, because you and your fabulous wife, Linda, have had a very successful business, multi-level marketing. Linda's certainly been incredibly successful in that space. And I know you've been, involved as well. And that's provided you guys income, which is really important. And if you're okay with me to share a little bit about the journey you're on at the moment, because you have had success with your investing and your business, and you're in a position now where you're investing in your family home. So you've got the block, it was a knockdown rebuild, wasn't it? Or partly knockdown?
No knockdown, but extension.
Oh.
Extension.
I won't curse it by saying that. And it's been quite the journey, hasn't it? Because there's been the Gold Coast storms, there's been flooding, there's been all sorts of stuff. So take me through that, because often we think about renovating and we see, we watch, what's that show that everyone watches? I don't watch it.
The Block.
The Block. That's it.
We are a family addicted to The Block. It is actually, PG rated family viewing, and fills a gap for many families.
So how's your block going?
The Block, well,
the Block episode.
Front and centre, probably put stars in our eyes on what we'd like to do and what was possible, and curse them for thinking you can do a major reno and overhaul in 16 weeks or something. But listen, you touch on a few things then. The first one to say is, and I got this, I guess through, you mentioned Tony Robbins, and my wife's a wonderful student of his, more so than mine. She's got a memory like a steel vice, which sometimes serves me well, but more often than not as a husband. But one line that she repeats of his, and she's a wonderful coach, is what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right.
Say that again for me.
What's wrong is always available, but so is what's right.
That's interesting.
And, I think for anyone who's, read books, studied anything like that, some of the, the greatest minds have always said that, the directed mind and what you choose to focus on will, determine your outcomes.
Absolutely.
As basic as that sounds, I mean, it just saved you $100,000 in personal development costs if you've never been to a show.
Well, I'll get you to repeat that. I'm a big fan of repetition.
Well, and this is it. This is from Earl Nightingale, and I'll tell that story really quick for those who don't know him. Go and find Earl Nightingale. I can't remember the name of the recording, but when I started in real estate, there was a particular amount of training we had, and I was given this Earl Nightingale CD, which I had a CD player in the car, and every day I'd listen to it, every single day, 6 days a week, off to the office, listen to this. And it's pretty much around having a directed mind. What you choose to focus on and think of and direct your thoughts towards will become your reality. And I know that can sound glib and circumstances of life happen and all the rest, but to just have whatever your mantra is through all of that, it's, for lenders, what is wrong is always available, so is what's right. You've got to look at everything in if you can, when you can look at things through that lens, it's a lot easier.
So let me give that some context for people that are tuning in today, obviously, to talk about investing. As an investor, you are always going to come up against challenges. So I know I'm probably telling you everything you already know, but I'm like I said, I'm a massive fan of repetition, and I can be a slow learner in these spaces sometimes. So I like to repeat. And so today I really want to focus on some of this mindset stuff, if that's okay with you, James, because what was your saying again? What's wrong is always available.
But so is what's right.
Right. And there's another saying that was drummed into me is if you're talking about what's wrong or a challenge about something, similar to that one is, well, what's good about this? So what are the benefits with this? Because there is always the yin and yang in everything you're doing, right? And I think that's so important to be able to train your mind to look for opportunity, because as we know, we are programmed to look for danger. Our caveman brains are focused on looking for the danger to keep us alive. And it's so easy to keep going down that well-worn path and looking at where is the danger, what is the problem, and it can become self-fulfilling, can't it, when you're only focused.
They're called the survival brain. Right? However many 10 million years, we're geared to survive. So absolutely.
Yeah. And and I know for myself, it's really easy to get into that loop of this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And guaranteed, it's like when you're, well, I'll speak from a parent's perspective, when you're pregnant, you start seeing pregnant people everywhere. When you're focused on problems, you start seeing problems everywhere. And you're saying around what you focus on becomes your reality. It's the small decisions you make daily based on your focus that drive the reality, is the detail in that 100% that I've found. And we were talking earlier, James, and we were saying, I was saying that the very first self-development book that I bought back in probably the late 1980s of all times, had I've been drawing on my notepad here, writing focus as a reminder for myself on what you were just saying then, James, because I do need to focus on some good positive stuff. The lady had this suggested that we map out our day and we choose where do we spend our time. Work in a box, break your day into 9 chunks like this and have a look at how is your day being spent? How's your time being spent? What is your focus on during the day? Because tying back into what James is saying, what you focus on is what you get. And where is the time that you're going to spend on your wealth creation, on your education, on property, on improving your mindset, improving your ability to look for opportunity, absolutely key. So if we come back to your renovation, James, take me through, because I would never know that you've had a bit of a challenging year this year. You've had some stuff going up, down and sideways, but I would never know it talking to you.
Well, that's nice to hear. I'll take that as the compliment it is. You don't want to dump your stuff on people. That's one of my things in life. But yeah, I'll give you a broad stroke. So the reno we'd planned, we'd got excited about. Obviously, the block helped fuel our ambitions, but we bought a home and Linda saw instantly that whilst it was highly livable and beautiful, it was the right piece of dirt in the right part of town that we wanted. But we wanted to make that our dream home.
Yep.
We had upgraded from the previous home that we're in, and that made some great money. And I remember when we bought into that, I was working with Positive, and we were doing well in Linda's business, and we're making money and some very strong things. The first property I'd done in Australia was investments with Positive. I'd built duplexes, subdivided, done that great, made that really good chunk of money that we're able to get into our first home here on the coast.
Right.
I was talking to Jason at that point, and I'm an accountant, I studied that at uni. And I approach everything analytically. He said, buddy, your home is different. He said, that's different. You're providing for your family, you're providing that space. It's a different set of rules. Go and fall in love with it and just know. So we'd used funds from investing. We had strong incomes, and we bought into, our first sort of dream home. And then we'd upgraded that. Buying into that second property, we would, when we say we, Linda and I, we probably went to 100 opens in our neighbourhood, 100 opens in our suburb.
Wow.
Over 2 years, to the point that one day an agent, she was the number one agent, she goes, why are you here? Why? What are you doing? We're like, well, we love homes and we've got kids. So this is like, we leave them at home and then we get a coffee and we go out, right? The kids are safe and they're in the same suburb, safely locked in the house at home, and we're out. And this is sort of we love it. And she said, are you going to buy them? We're like, no, you never know. And one day we saw this agent, she said, oh, I've got a deal for you. And we're like, sure. She goes, yeah, I just had one fall over yesterday. It fell over and went, it's a discount, it's a bargain. It's, oh my God, come see. And she literally took us. And like Linda came out of there going, oh my God, that's the one. And I'm like, we're never buying that home. By the next day, Linda had convinced me why it was the one, and we got it at a discount, right? I want to tell that story.
Awesome.
We would have only have known that. And we're talking, you know, some serious six-figure discount on this because it had been passed in at auction. The vendor thought he'd get more, passed in the auction price, 6 months later, not sold because you rejected that good offer and the prices had gone backwards. So we could see what we're getting.
So there's a lesson here. There's a lesson here I want to highlight. So the lesson is to build relationships. If you're going to go out and do your own deals, go and build relationships with people that will bring you deals. Some of the best deals I have had have been agents bringing me stuff off market because they know I'm a serious buyer. And she's obviously sussed you out. She knows you're capable. I'm sure she's done her homework. She's the number one agent for a reason. And the market was in your favor as a buyer, which is awesome. And now you've got a seller that's been conditioned. Fantastic.
Absolutely right. And, you know, I knew enough that you know, we didn't have finance lined up technically, but we were able to rally hard because I understood that game. I'd been around. It wasn't my first purchase. I put my broker under notice. I put my account on notice. Said, guys, I've got 10 days. You know, I need some big money here, and it's got to be a bridging loan because we can't sell yet. And we made it happen. I still remember that. We made that happen, and we knew we walked into a discount.
Oh, and so take me through, because not everyone's going to be familiar with bridging loans and that kind of thing, because I often say to my clients, sell your own house first to eliminate the stress and then go shopping. You did it the other way, which isn't wrong.
We went to contract. So we owned our home. We had some really strong equity in that because we'd been, you know, we'd worked hard and, you know, paid down some of our loan and had some in offset, and we'd worked hard at that. And the market had risen. So we had some really strong equity, and I knew if we went to contract on a new property with the finance clause, we were protected. And during that finance clause, I knew I had to go to the bank and say, I need you to borrow for this new home, and I want to hold on to the old one until I can sell the old one. And that was called a bridging loan. And I think it was 3-month period in which we had to sell that home at a given price. Right. Now the bank came in and valued both homes. And of course, you know, they're going to err on the side of conservative, and secondly on the one we have to sell. But then we were able to go unconditional, pay deposits out of our cash for the big new home. And then I had 3 months to sell the other one. So there's you know, and I'll just tell that story. That was not a flush time. If we're able to get a discount in the market, it wasn't a particularly flush market for sellers. So
because there's a double-edged sword.
We knew we had a genuine discount if we bought into the next one. And it was funny. I remember we got an agent on it. I agreed with his auction campaign. The day before the auction, we had no one. I remember him ringing me and saying, we've got a buyer. I'm like, tell me. And this is the day before. So we needed a contract on the property, right? You know, or I would have gone to plan D, you know, I would have figured one out. But anyway, property sold at auction, under the hammer. We got our money, it went unconditional. We were able to follow that through and work through those loans.
Fantastic. And so you've obviously got now this beautiful home, but because there were some changes that you wanted to make, and they're not small changes.
No.
are substantial changes.
Yes.
Hence, I thought it was a knockdown rebuild kind of changes.
It could have been. Yeah, it is. Yep. It's, we added 70 square meters to the upstairs.
Ooh.
Right. So that's big. We had to take off half the roof of the house. It was sort of a big ground floor and a half story upstairs. And we wanted more bedrooms upstairs so the kids could be up there and really design the home we wanted. So it was it was an extension, it was roof off, it was an overhaul. We got a great designer, and that took a long time. She needed a lot of following up and a lot of things, and we had different builders along the way, and we could feel that things were starting to get super busy. The builder that we thought we'd get in won a Master Builders Award and just didn't even sort of get back around to say, hey, I'll quote your job.
Wow.
Some of the other builders that we'd thought, we had one builder come out and had a chat, and he goes, I couldn't start for a year. And we're like, what are you doing here then? And he said, I just thought maybe you wouldn't want to start for a year. But we're going to have plans. We're interviewing builders. We're going to get this happening. In the end, the builder we chose had come really highly recommended from a friend, and had also come in at considerably less on price, albeit, there was some wiggle room on a couple of the things in the quote that we were happy to be flexible on, and the work started. We had to move out of the home, which we did. We were able to get a break lease, and it started. And I'll tell all the numbers. It was supposed to be a 5.5 month build. It's been 11 months and we're still not in.
Yeah, so you're renting at the moment.
Correct.
Yeah, and going through the reno, and I guess some of this has been born because of COVID, right? So there's been obviously nationally there's challenges with building materials, with a lack of enough builders. Everyone's flat chat, everyone's renovating because everyone's got equity.
Yeah.
And so we've got a really unusual market where, fixed price contracts have pretty much gone by the wayside because material costs keep going up. And so you're navigating, then add, I guess, natural disasters and acts of God to that.
Yes.
And you're navigating quite a challenging time for yourself. How do you frame that for yourself when you don't have a roof on and you get the most rain that the Gold Coast has seen in how long? And you're watching I'm sorry if I'm spelling this out, but you're watching the place fill up with water, and
it's been tough. I'll be very honest, it has. And mindset aside, your emotions with your house and your family, sometimes you wear them on your sleeve. So you've got to work through that. So I'll keep quoting my wife. She's got another saying that she says, you can't argue with a raindrop. And I'm not sure if it was Deepak Chopra or someone said that, but literally you can't, which means you can't argue with the rain. Yeah. You might not want it to. You really, 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 really might not want it to rain today, but if it's going to rain, you can't argue with that. So nothing's been more poignant than that saying for us as it's continued to rain.
You can't control it, right?
Yeah. We're to 6 months on record, and we've had half a roof on the house. So what we, through there, we were able to get assurances from the builder. Anything damaged will be replaced. Anything damaged will be replaced. Your structural timber will be fine. And to their word, they've, had to strip back well more chip rock than we may have thought. Certain parts of the home that we were going to retain have had to be, stripped out and replaced. And, to their word, they are saying that that's on them.
Okay, that's good.
So through that, part of you is right, where we've got to focus on what we want, which is, the house of our dreams, and part is, okay, well, I need to also be really based in facts here, right? Now, I know that we've got insurance. The builder has got insurance, and we paid for it and made sure that policy was in place, QBCC insurance. And various states will have their own to cover that job. And that was not inexpensive. That policy was about $8 or $9 grand to cover the reno. And I know what that covers us for. So if the builder was to go broke, or there was to be work that was, not up to scratch, and all these things, there's a mechanism in Australia and a governing body that will step in after the fact and help you through that.
Right.
So that's been comforting. I've had, external parties, a couple of buddies who are builders and this and that, and they want to come for a walkthrough and a look, who've come through and said, listen, the workmanship's good, albeit it's wet, but that's okay. We see this a lot. This is going to be fine. So you get that third party, feedback. That's been essential and possibly one of the most best sleep at night factors. Yeah. So you're always looking for, where can I get educated here? What can I focus on? What's right is always available. Right. Well, there's insurance on the home. There's backup insurance on the builder. I'm getting third-party references here that this is going to be okay. All right. What's the worst downside here? We've got buffer. All right. The downside is we're out of our home for longer. Okay. Can we afford that? Yes, because we've got buffer. I'm paying, rent and a mortgage. Not ideal, but that's it. And we're also aware that, very thankfully to the builder's credit, that he hasn't given us variations or the price hasn't gone up. Yeah. And we locked in yesterday's price. We locked in yesterday's price, which we're aware of. And I know that he, as a small builder going through, a property boom, and, some are calling it a profitless boom for builders. The margins are squeezed. We'd rather him take longer, stay in business, for him and his employees and families and jobs and all the rest. If it takes longer and everyone gets through, we're okay with that too.
Yeah, okay. That was going to be my next question. It's like, you want a solvent builder, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and this is where the fixed price contract stuff has often gone out the window, because unless in this builder that you guys have got, he's reputable, he's come recommended, so no doubt he's got his own buffers in place and can weather this.
To an extent, that's not in our control though. That's not in our control.
No.
So to fret on that,
it's pointless.
Which when I've had my moments on that, is somewhat pointless. I can only go, okay, well, we're in this position. I know the T's and C's of the contracts and what we've signed and all the things on it. Okay, we just want to work with this builder and get the job done. If that's going to take longer, we're better off acknowledging he needs more time, not penalising him for that, because we can see that there's things out of his control.
Can I grill you?
Hey,
can I grill you? Can I put you in the hot seat? Nothing too personal, don't worry.
What are we doing now? Oh my God, I feel so hot already.
I'm going to share something too, so don't worry. And I won't do anything mean and nasty. I know for myself, I'll be very frank, and I've talked in previous podcasts about experiencing domestic violence, about all sorts of stuff. So I'd like to try to be an open book where there's a lesson and there's a point to it. So what I know is that I'm also prone, whether it's old trauma or whatever it is, or just my genetic makeup or how I frame stuff to myself, I know I suffer anxiety. I get quite bad anxiety, and it's a mental health challenge I have to manage. And so what I find is, I always remember Tony Robbins saying that it's great to have all of these tools and these mantras and so forth, but you equally can't just go, I'm happy, and like in the nut house, right? Because I find myself 4 a.m., 2 a.m., and I'm doing that fucking, excuse my French, that crazy, we'll have to bleep that a crazy 8, where I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel and my mind is cycling, and I know I actually have to get up, have a cup of tea, breathe through it, ask myself what's real and what I can control, and come out the other side of that. And I have, like we were discussing before, I meditate, I've introduced cold water bathing, I run, I eat well, I get enough sleep. They are the key tools that I have at my fingertips to manage when I'm feeling stressed and concerned about stuff. And so for yourself, if I was to say, tell me, like, it's been a stressful build, I know that. Yes. So when the proverbial, shit hits the fan, what does that look like for you, and how do you frame it for yourself and come out of it?
You know what? I think you learn on the job, right? I'm serious. Right? I'm no master at this, and I'm some nights are sleepless. That's part of it, right? This is our dream home, and so when you say dream, it's there's, for me, my family is my highest priority in life, and providing for them and having a home for them, and having that, all of that encompasses. That's that's the center of my sort of life. So yeah, it's not easy. You have some sleepless nights in there, and you do your best to get on with things that you can have impact in, right?
Yeah.
Truly. And whether that's work or family, I'm not talking, it's somewhat distractions. This is sort of distraction. Quality distractions are better than bag ones, and certainly there's some red wine and scotch getting, imbibed.
Fish and chips for
at
me,
my house.
sir. Fish and chips.
I know you're not drinking because you're ultra, but sure, and that's okay, and I'm okay with that too, right? Because everything in balance. It's interesting what you mentioned just there. Very good friend of mine. You guys might know Scott Harris. So he works really closely with Tony, and he said, James, more recently he went through 13, we'll call it 13 isolations, back and forth to the US to work with Tony, and back into 2 weeks quarantine in the hotel. So he really got to learn on the job. He said 20 years or 30 years of hearing and learning and doing it finally. And he said the game is physiology. That's where it starts. Physiology meaning your body.
Yeah.
And if that's simply controlling your breath, if that's getting the sneakers on, for me, I love walking the dog, right? And they sort of bug me because they get wrapped around trees and want to poop, and I've got to do all that. But I sort of like it because my body's moving. I'm working through the neighborhood. I'm seeing that. It's just, it's not a distraction, but it somewhat is. It's the directed mind we talked about. It's where do I want to direct my energy and attention? Now, I can't walk the dogs for 16 hours a day. Kids are busy and life's busy and all the rest, and I'm going to do this and check in on the house, and not much work's got done this week, and it's still wet.
Yeah.
Okay, not ideal, but we're getting closer. I've got buffers. Yeah. Right. I think that there's certainly, I've learned through life that things are easier when you've got money in the bank. Right. Yeah. Now, I'm 50 now, and I've certainly, worked hard to get to a point where I've got money in the bank, and there was a lot of time where there wasn't. There was a lot of time. There was a time when Linda and I literally, we lived out of envelopes, or our cash lived in envelopes, and it was earmarked groceries, petrol, whatever, entertainment. When that envelope was empty for that week, well, okay, there's no more in there.
Yeah.
We've been at that point. I want to just say that, and we've worked incredibly hard to build up those reserves to do that. Yeah. And so that, your lessons enable you to get through the lessons better next time, maybe. I wouldn't want to see me in this position as a 25-year-old without much buffers, because I'd probably be freaking out. But, in context, okay, so my reno is going to take an extra 5 months. Okay, my kids are healthy. I've got good people, in my life. I love that, I get to work hard. It's something I'm passionate about. Yeah. Right.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
And move your body, physiology, if that's exercise or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I was particularly interested to talk to you about this stuff today, and I might have taken you off track of what maybe you thought you were going to talk about or wanted to talk about. But, it is something that I've noticed in all my interaction with you over the years, is how well you seemingly manage with stress and anxiety and challenges. And so I did want to touch on that, because whether it's renovating your own home, if I can put it in context for everyone as to why I've gone down this path today, whether it's renovating your home, and I mean, really a renovation like what James is doing, I would call almost development. It's a construction project.
We had a digger in the house.
Yeah. A construction project. It is not a simple renovation, which is paint and polish. So, whether it's something like that you're undertaking, or whether you're building your portfolio and you're buying your first investment, or you're about to, there will be challenges. And how successful you are with your investing and in life is going to be dictated by the story you tell yourself, to quote famous people, and what meaning you put on every challenge and how you frame that and how you look for opportunities within those challenges. So at the risk of, sounding like I'm trying to channel Oprah and people like that, I'm saying this because over 15 years of coaching, the thing that has made people successful is exactly what I see exhibited in James's behavior on a daily basis. So I really wanted to highlight that today. If I can ask the classic podcast question of you, sir, going back, you meet James, young James, 20-year-old James, and you were to give James advice for the future, what would you like to be able to impart on young James Evenden if you could today? What wisdom?
Oh, where are we? Just the reassurance that it's going to be all right. I think part of my personality is probably sometimes living in the future so much that you plan for that future, and that's 10, 20, 30 years ahead. It's still good to do, but just make sure you're enjoying the now. I think I've
100%
done enough of that too. I think that I'm learning. You learn from they're not mistakes. They're not mistakes. You learn from your experiences.
Yeah.
You learn from your experience. Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
I think that's been a motto for me. Find something you love, surround yourself with good people, and go like hell. That's it. If you're not around good people, get out of there, whatever space that's in. But that's it. And you talk about mindset and those sort of things. I get that from Jay Swift. I listen to his morning coffee chats most mornings in the car. I do. And I've got a lot of respect for him and his ability as a coach and investor and all the rest. But I take a lot from what he says.
Yeah.
And that's me tapping into something. What's wrong is always available. I could listen to the news, and most mornings I still get the headlines on ABC. And then I listen to Jace and get the other side of that coin, literally.
Yeah.
Because what's right is always available.
Yeah.
Right. So I sort of avoided your question there, didn't I?
Oh no,
you set me up. Listen, I would just say do the stuff that you're dreaming of earlier. I'm 50 now, Tab, and I did run a marathon, which I'm so incredibly proud of. I'm not sure I've got another one left in my knees, but I still want to do an Ironman, and that's part of an Ironman. So I'm like, did I leave the run too late? Time will tell, but there's no time like the present, and just you get on with your dreams. Life's happening there,
100%. And small bites daily is what I'm going to say to you for your marathon running dream.
Yes, we talked about that.
I have a friend that runs bone on bone on his knees, both knees, and he does the most incredible distances, but he built up so slowly. So start now.
I'm impressed.
Yep. You're never going to be any younger.
No, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, James. And I hope that was really helpful, guys. Massive thanks to James. Hey, thanks for listening to Property Investor Tales. Remember to subscribe so you get notified every time a new episode drops. As you can guess, I love hearing people's property investor tales. So if you'd like to share yours, then please get in touch with me via email at propertyinvestortales@positivementor.com.au. We would also love your feedback, and I would appreciate a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Remember, you can watch all of these podcasts over on YouTube at Positive Mentor or at positivementor.com.au. Until then, take care, happy investing, and bye for now.